this game was not good for anxiety at all. Now, at the end of the day, the Sens lose in a shootout 4-3 to the Penguins, and I'm kind of feeling okay with the result, to be honest, because, like, given the fact that they're missing their top two defensemen in Sanderson and Shabbat's going to be out for a long time, and we could potentially not see him again until next season. Um, and just certain points during this game, they didn't look great, especially in that second period. I did not like their second period tonight at all. Um, and they get a point out of it against another team in Pittsburgh who is also fighting for a playoff spot, right? So I kind of feel okay about this. They get a valuable point. Obviously, it would have been nice to get two, but they do get a point. So I did do a watch party for the game tonight, and we made history with the live stream because this is the first time I've ever done a watch party where the Sens went to a shootout. So there you go, little fun fact. So Game 72 of the season was played on Thursday, March 26th against the Pittsburgh Penguins. It was a 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern start time. So this was the third and final meeting of the season between these two teams. The Sens actually won the first two, so the Penguins avoid being swept by the Sens. Starting goalies were Linus Ullmark for the Sens and Stuart Skinner for the Penguins. The Sens were 38, 24, and 9 coming into tonight. The Penguins were 35, 20, and 16 coming into tonight. And, this was a close game. This could have went either way. The score ends up being 4-3, but there were so many chances for both teams. The Pittsburgh had at least 3 goal posts. Those could have easily went in, and I don't even know how we got to a shootout because that overtime was insane. The chances for both teams, obviously disappointing that they don't win and get 2 points, but again, they get a valuable point, and that's just kind of what I'm hanging my hat on right now. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and talk about tonight's game and get into the stats here. Alright, so let's take a look at the stats for tonight's game, and as you can see, it was really close. So, the Penguins win by a score of 4-3 in a shootout against the Sens. The Penguins move up to 36, 20, and 16. The Sens fall to 38, 24, and 10. So the shots were 38-29 in favor of the Penguins. Face-off percentage 65.4% for the Sens, 34.6% for the Penguins. Both teams go 1 for 2 on the power play. Both teams had 4 penalty minutes. The hits were 31-15 in favor of the Sens. Block shots 16-11 in favor of the Penguins. It felt like the Penguins had more than that. It also felt like the Sens were missing the net a lot. I don't know. It feels like I said that a lot during the watch party tonight. I was like, oh, another miss. Oh, another shot that missed. I don't know. It just kind of felt like it. Both teams also had 18 giveaways, and the takeaways were 8-3 in favor of the Penguins. And as mentioned, this was the final meeting of the season between these two teams. So they will not see each other again until most likely next season. Playoffs, maybe. Probably not. But you never know. Alright, so as I always do for games that I do a watch party for, I do not take notes. So we'll go ahead and run through the scoring summary here. So Drake Batherson would end up opening the scoring in the first period at the 4:28 mark on the power play, his 28th of the season from Tkachuk and Stützle, and the Sens go up 1-0. And then later on in the first period, Raquel would answer for the Penguins at the 13:46 mark from Carlson. Of course, Carlson had a big night tonight. Why wouldn't he? Little fun fact, he is my favorite player of all time, and it still just does not sit right with me seeing him in a Penguins jersey. I don't like it. And of course, he had quite the night tonight. But anyways, Raquel would tie it at 1. So we end the first period. We go into the first intermission. We're tied 1-1. And it's an insanely even game to this point. The shots were 10-10 in the first period, so this could go either way. So we go into the second period, and I did not like their second period tonight at all, and you'll see why. So Nick Cousins would end up opening the scoring in the second period here with his 9th of the season at the 150 mark from Clevin and Ullmark drawing an assist. So how about that? This was kind of a fluky one. He went for a pass that hit off the Penguin player. I forget who it was now. I think it might have been Gerard. and he kind of gets it back and puts it in. So a bit of a fluky goal there, and yeah, they go up early in the second period, so we're feeling kind of good, right? But not too long after that, less than 2 minutes later, Carlson would score from Raquel and Kindle at the 3:45 mark, and this would tie the game at 2. So there was no more scoring for the rest of the second period, but the shots in the second period end up being 16-6 in favor of the Penguins. I don't know. It just the Sens looked like they were exhausted in the second period. I don't know what happened. Again, we got all of our defensemen. They're all playing way more than what they're used to playing, right? So that's gonna have an effect for sure. So we go into the second intermission. We're tied 2-2. It's still a very close game, but at this point in the game, the shots are now 26-16 in favor of the Penguins. But it's like it can go either way, right? So we roll into the third period, and early in the third period, 1:43 in, Raquel would score on the power play from Carlson and Rust. So Carlson had a 3-point night tonight in Ottawa, because of course he did. So yeah, that would make it 3-2 Penguins, and then little over 2 minutes later, at the 3:58 mark, it was Batherson scoring his second of the night, 29th of the season, from Stützle and Spence, and this would tie the game at 3. And I don't know. I feel like the Sens were probably a little bit fortunate to get a point out of this one, just because of how god-awful that second period was. I know they scored in the second period, but I don't know. Like, this is why I kind of feel okay about the result, right? So we end regulation. We're tied 3-3. We go into overtime, and I have no clue how we got to a shootout. There were chances galore for both teams. There were so many, I couldn't even keep track. So we go to a shootout, and the first shooter for the Sens was Batherson. He would score. And then Raquel was up for the Penguins first. He would not score. Stützle shot second for the Sens. He was stopped. And then Chinnikov would score for the Penguins after that. And then Pinto would shoot third. He was also stopped. And then Ben Kindle ends up scoring the shootout winner. So the shootout ends up being 2-1. And 4-3 ends up being your final. And yeah, I'll say it again. Just I kind of feel okay about the result. Also, the shots in overtime were 6-4 in favor of the Sens, so go ahead and throw that in there. But yeah, we'll take a look at the box score for the Sens here. So starting off with the forwards, so Stützle had a couple of assists, 2 assists. Batherson had 2 goals, as mentioned. Tkachuk had 1 assist, and Nick Cousins had a goal. Plus minus, Stützle, Batherson, and Giroux were all +1. Pinto, Amadio, and Eller were all -1. Ice time leader was Stützle. He played 23-21 tonight. And the shot leader was Tkachuk and Batherson, each with 4. Block shots, we got Giroux and Gregg leading the way with 2. And Tkachuk had the most hits with 6. So now I'm always curious to see the ice time for the defense. So here we go. Spence and Clevin had an assist. And Clevin was a +1, Zub was -1, and now the ice time, oh, you know what, it doesn't look as bad as I thought it would. Like, okay, this is actually not too bad. Yakimchuk played a lot, though. Wow. So the ice time leader was Spence with 27:48. Yakimchuk played 17:42. This is his second NHL game. So he has looked pretty good. There were a couple of shifts where he was caught up in the play. He didn't get back in time, but I mean he's young. It's his second game, right? I think he's gonna be okay. But yeah, that's a lot of ice time for him. Holy smokes. Yakimchuk led the way in shots with 2, and Matt and Paolo led the way in blocks with 2, and Spence and Matt and Paolo each had 3 hits, which led the way there. And yeah, we take a look at the save percentage for Ullmark, and he had a good night. He stops 35 out of 38 for a .921 save percentage, and he played well. The .921 save percentage, you can't complain about that. So, yeah, again, at the end of the day, obviously you're never going to be happy when your team loses. You want to see your team win, but just given the circumstances and the fact that the Sens are missing their top two defensemen along with others, and they looked really bad in the second period, I'm okay with this. They get a point, a very valuable point at that. And as it stands right now, we'll take a look at the standings because they are changing like crazy. So right now, the Sens are now outside of a playoff spot, but they trail the Islanders by 1 point. They're behind Boston by 2. They're behind Montreal by 4. It's so incredibly close, and this could change tomorrow night. Well, maybe not tomorrow night because I think there's like 2 games, but you get the point. The standings are still very close, and anything can happen. The Sens are still playing well. There's no reason to panic because of this result, I don't think. And yeah, it was a good, hard-fought game. 2 teams that are battling for a playoff spot, and I wouldn't expect anything less. So that is pretty much it for this one, guys. The Sens' next game will be on Saturday, March 28th, 1 p.m. Eastern Start Time against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And the Sens are going to be tested here because they have a lot of tough opponents coming up. They got Tampa coming up, Florida, Buffalo, Minnesota, Carolina, some pretty tough opponents, so they are really going to be tested big time, so we'll see what the Sens can do. But anyways, I do want to throw in as well, I will not be doing a watch party for this game, but maybe the next game after that against the Panthers next Tuesday, so more on that later. But anyways, yes, we're going to wrap it up here. Sens fall to the Penguins by a score of 4-3 in a shootout, and I kind of feel okay about it, to be honest. They get a very valuable point. But I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. Thank you all so much again, and thank you again to everyone who came out to the watch party tonight. Really do appreciate that, and go Sens go.